When I would look in the mirror, I saw nothing looking back at me. There was an emptiness inside of me, a deep sadness. It was a very dark world. That's very scary when you look at yourself and you don't recognize yourself. I didn't know your world could get that dark and that hopeless.
And I guess I never really thought I had depression. I just thought I was probably a mom that had gotten burnt out. So I took that person's advice and went to see a therapist, and I was diagnosed, of course, on the first visit with depression.
When my daughter passed away on November 19th, 2007, she was diagnosed with bipolar disease.
It is the most frustrating thing to have a loved one have a mental illness and want to be able to help them and rationally want to really just take over everything and care for them, but you can't. You can't do that. And what you have to do, unfortunately, is step back and hope the services are there to provide for that person.
My first experience with depression that I can remember is when my daughter graduated from high school. She had spent her 4 years of high school dealing with depression and anxiety, but I think the time I was the most afraid is when a teacher from the high school had called and said that she was suicidal and that my husband and I should come over and get her right away and take her to the hospital. And we did. We didn't end up in the La Crosse hospital though, because they didn't take teenagers at the hospital, so we had to go about a half hour away from here.
Everybody is touched in some way. It's amazing. I say you can't throw a stone without somebody having been touched by mental illness. It's kind of like when one of us started talking, more people started to come out and say, my child has suffered from this disease. I'm glad somebody is speaking up and making it known how prominent this disease is, and it doesn't affect just one person. It affects the entire family.
I think if people really knew the truth, there's not one person that won't be touched by it. And why I say that is because I guess the other big barrier here is stigma. People don't want people to know that their loved ones are on the psychiatric unit. They don't have that support out there when their loved ones are on the psychiatric unit. People need to be comfortable talking about it. They need to be aware that, there are families that are really struggling out there.
I think most people know there's a stigma, but it's one of those things where until it happens to you or a loved one, you don't realize how much. And people don't talk about it. It's one of those things. And I remember years and years ago, my mother was a nurse here for nearly 20 years at Gundersen Lutheran. And when cancer was being talked about, it was whispered, she has cancer. They used to whisper about that, and now everyone has a ribbon they wear, which, that's wonderful. I'm looking for the day that we have a ribbon that everyone wears and says, I have this and I'm living with it, and life goes on.
If we can get to a new place of respect and dignity, and a place where families can bring their loved ones in and not have to worry about not telling other people or other people finding out about it, I think that would be a great place to be.
I think there is still a stigma, but I think we've come a long ways. And really part of it is seeing this new behavioral health department open up and seeing the changes that our community is starting to make.
I think the biggest misconception is that, they'll get over it, if you're depressed, it's just no big deal, it'll pass. Well, Gundersen is realizing that, again, it's a physical illness and it needs to be addressed as such, and they want to address it with dignity and compassion.
And our current building is old. It's about 40 years old. It's not an environment that you would look at and call healing. And that's what we really, really want to create for our patients. They need hope when they come in. I think one of the key things is that we can have a facility that offers respect and dignity to our patients. That really helps decrease the stigma. I'm very proud of the investment that the organization has made.
It's been something that the people who suffer with mental illnesses have talked about for a long time, that they'd like to see change within the hospital systems. So I think it's really great that we're there now in La Crosse, and that it's a recovery model. It's just so wonderful to know that people aren't going to be surrounded by walls, and that they're going to have windows, and they're going to have a courtyard, and you know, they're going to be able to be respected and treated, and it would decrease the amount of times they come back as well.
The expansion of the behavioral health unit here is something the community and surrounding area needs. I'm excited for the community that Gundersen Lutheran has decided to go forward with this and provide help for more people.
Behavioral health has always sat in the shadows, and I think I admire Gundersen Lutheran for taking those next steps, for listening to the community, for listening to the call of action that mental health is here in our region, right? And we need to do more about it. And to actually make it part of the campus renewal, I give them a lot of applause for doing that.
I've talked with a lot of people from the hospital and the units over the last 4 or 5 years, and really just being able to hear from them and know that they deep down wanted to see change too. It's nice that we're all getting that wish that it's going to be better for everybody.